Good evening, Sunita ma'am. If you can hear us. Simran, can you hear us? Simran ma'am?
Good evening.
Good evening, Sunita
Everyone.
ma'am. How are you?
Hi, good evening.
So one correction that we've done over the last roundtable is that we've limited the number of panelists. The idea is to close it in 1 hour, and because this is the festive time and everybody has engagements. And second, I think to make it even more meaningful, because if you have more participants and you want to give everybody a chance to put their views, then it tends to go. Even though I must say that the panelists are all very well behaved, but yet it tends to go all over the place. And idea today is to really seek solutions, and Dolly ma'am, please show yourself. This is a non-burqa show.
There she is.
Evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Good evening. Swati ma'am also joining.
So Navneet ma'am is trying to join. She's saying she's unable to. Is there something?
I don't know. I'm welcoming anybody who's joining.
All right, I'll
Just
just
tell you
check.
try again. Just tell you try again. Ridhima, you might have to wear your mask. Tell her to join. I'm all there to receive her here. No, she's not. Ridhima, nobody's joining. She's not. So ask her.
She's saying maybe it's connectivity issues, so she's trying without the video now.
Do we wait for her, Ridhima, or do we start? Or is there anybody else who's supposed to join? Or we are done with the quorum?
So can we just wait for another minute or two? We're just trying to connect with Maya ma'am also.
Okay, fair. So fine, we'll wait for a minute. Sanjay, how's the weather in Ajmer? Is it becoming colder there now in the evenings?
Yeah, a little nippy in the morning and the evenings. Things are changing here. Pretty early this time of the year because last year, I remember, till about November, we had our ACs on and everything. So I don't know. Things are changing here, yeah. Pretty nippy here in the mornings, evenings too. We stopped using ACs as well. So, one is on here, of course, this is the office, but otherwise at home, we aren't using ACs.
I think same here in Delhi, except that the point is that Delhi, you can't let the outside air come in because of the pollution.
Yes, heard of that, yes.
I think it's most unfortunate that in Delhi, the best period time is now for outdoors, for going to parks, and you have pollution at this kind of time.
Okay, somebody joined from HP.
Sir, I believe Maya ma'am is trying to join.
No,
Did you get any request?
no, I've not yet got any request. Somebody joined from HP, and I think it was Sunita ma'am.
Maya ma'am said she's been trying to join since like 15 minutes.
Yes, actually, from the other device had some speaker problem. The voice was not coming, so I joined from the other device.
No problem. Sir. I think you ask Maya ma'am also. Maybe she needs to sort of change the device. Sanjana, speak to Maya ma'am, and then we start. I think we should take off. I think let whoever comes in, we'll take them on as they come in. Sanjeev, we'll start.
I think we should.
All right. Okay. So I think we start. Ridhima, you keep look out for Maya ma'am. If she comes in, and then I'll admit her here. All right. Okay. So good evening and welcome again to the round table. Like I was mentioning to Sanjay Saab that
I'm having sleep disorders. मुझे रात सपने में सारा टाइम अक्षय भी आता है. I can't.
Swati ma'am, we can hear you what you're saying, so you'll better off putting it on mute. Okay, so welcome everybody to the to another round of roundtable of the SVC Guild, and this time we learned a lesson last time. We had gotten a slightly largish panel, though everybody was very well behaved, but somewhere we felt that we in order to be fair to everybody, to get everybody's point of view, somewhere we were there was a tendency to go off track. So this time we've restricted our numbers. Idea to have a meaningful 1 hour discussion, which is what we used to restrict our roundtables earlier to be. Last time it went on to 1 hour and 25 minutes. So we will try and curtail it to 1 hour today. We'll be very, very specific to the issue, and that does not mean that there is no free flow of ideas. You're absolutely free to air whatever views you have. It's a difficult issue that we are trying to grapple with. We are looking at how today with the lockdown, with the pandemic around, and schools are a no-no, except for maybe now they've allowed in Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, and I think in Sikkim. Barring these 3 states, no other state has opened a school, and it is not likely they will open up now, at least till Diwali. So we've struggled, all of us as educationists, we've struggled during this period. So there have been some challenges, or a lot of challenges, and there's also been some opportunities for us. So the idea is to sort of look at how do we transit to this phase, and this is the new normal, and one doesn't know whether when times become normal, whether we would resort or we will completely discard learning through the video conferencing platform, and will only then depend on the conventional methods, the brick and mortar methods, as we can call them. Education in terms of content and mechanism of delivery has been, yeah, that's my MM joining us. So education in terms of content and mechanism of delivery was undergoing a major change any which ways, with technology having made big strides, and with e-learning platforms, with companies trying to set up smart boards, getting a lot of digital content, and that being used as a wonderful tool in schools to complement the efforts of every teacher. But this situation, which happened all of a sudden, took us completely unprepared. And so there have been a lot of challenges. There have been some opportunities, like I said. This panel discussion is where we will discuss what have been the challenges, how have we encountered, if there are some best practices that somebody is aware of, or somebody's practiced that in their school, and there is some learning, we'll share that here. And we will also obviously look at the kind of opportunities that lie for us. Now, the critics for formal education have been for long talking about killing of curiosity among students, and I thought I'll use this to put the pigeon amongst the cats when I'll bring this out. And what I'm trying to say here is that the education system has been trying to move away from rote learning. Not much has been done to generate curiosity. Teaching online perhaps presents us with a beautiful opportunity to generate curiosity. And that, I think, is a huge opportunity in front of us. So let's begin on a positive note. Looking at this opportunity, is bringing back or generating curiosity, is that a opportunity that we are exploiting in our classes that we are taking online, or it is still something that, that's something we've been talked about. It is practically not possible to get students to become more curious. So I thought I'll put that up, and from there, it's a positive thing. It's an opportunity, and from there we go on and take the way the discussion goes forward. Sanjay, over to you. So curiosity and this forced teaching online, does it help?
Yeah, thank you, Viraj. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So a couple of things, Viraj. I think I have my, I'll start. Part of me, would have big reservations when it comes to online learning. But at the same time, I think, because the times are such that we have to resort to, there's no other option available with us. Also, this is a crisis that we can't possibly let go waste. We can't let it go waste. So we have to, sort of resort to online learning. Pretty difficult time for all of us, and I'm sure all of you agree with me. I like to use these three terms, and over the course of several weeks, over several webinars, I've used these words. Pretty Kafkaesque time, or Orwellian times, dystopian times. Probably, this is a leaf out from, science fiction. The only thing is that it's real this time. And we have, suddenly one fine morning we get up and we find ourselves, as Franz Kafka says, metamorphosed into a vermin. We don't know what to do. And we are not used to this new scenario at all. When we come to online learning, this is something that should have ideally happened earlier as well. Something that we call as synchronous and asynchronous learning and blended learning. It should have happened. Had it been happening then, the transition would have been rather smooth. But I have my huge kind of, reservation. So I'd say, I'm pretty ambivalent when it comes to online learning. A part of me, educational clairvoyance in me, would say, this is the only way to, kind of move forward, because this is the only option available. This is the only option to be able to establish a connect with the students. So we have to do it. It is inevitable. But a large part of me would have, very, very serious reservations about it. I was taking this webinar a couple of days ago, and I was supposed to talk on, project-based learning. And we were discussing about, the hominid ancestors, and they trying to bring down this, woolly mammoth. So quite obviously, we're talking of, project-based learning, we're talking of critical thinking. There's a problem. The problem is how to get the woolly mammoth down. There has to be a critical thinking, because till the time you think critically, you can't possibly, solve the problem at hand. You need a lot of teamwork, because without teamwork, once again, it's a huge animal. You can't bring it down. Collaboration, communication. But I think the most interesting part that we discussed that evening was that after the kill, all the hominid ancestors are sitting around the fire, and they are discussing the adventures of the day. They're reliving the adventures of the day. They're telling a story. the story of the kid. Now, how would it be possible to kind of recreate exactly the same scenario in online learning? So that is one part, you know. The other thing that I wish to share with all of you is that, you know, authentic experience is one, engagement is another, peer learning is something that, you know, we'll face challenges. Similarly, I probably, you know, go on to the extent of saying, and I strongly believe in this, you know, not a kind of an unofficial kind of a statement from me, that if only I had a voice in education, I would have probably gone and declared this a gap year, except for class 12 students who have to funnel into, you know, colleges and universities for their future admissions and things like that. The rest of I mean, it wouldn't really have made a lot of difference had these students, and in that, you know, interim period, in that, you know, sort of interstice of time, they could have, you know, thought about their priorities in life. They could have thought about as to what they have to do in the course of next 1 or 2, 3 years. And I think that would have helped them in good stead, rather than, you know, kind of, you know, sort of thrusting this, you know, online learning on them. Giraj just used the word new normal. New normal, I have my reservations again with new normal. It's a twisted normal. The normal is, you know, you can't possibly sort of convolute the idea of normalcy. We are all working towards, I mean, returning to, there's only one normal. So I'd say, I mean, sometimes it seems to be rather abominable to me, abhorrent to me, because this is not the new normal. The online class can never, ever kind of recreate the vim, the verve, the energy, the exuberance, the character, the life of a real class. So there's no way, I know, I mean, this is what educational clairvoyance would dictate us to do. I mean, this is something that our wisdom and our probably prudence would tell us to do. I mean, this is the only way forward. But at the same time, I think we have to get back to our original self, which is a normal. Maybe then we can try out blended learning, and we can, you know, sort of try out synchronous and asynchronous thing, and something, you know, I create a kind of an educational environment or learning environment where we have both kinds of, you know, online and offline kind of, you know, education. Viraj.
Fair. And what about, Sanjay, what about curiosity? My original question, that do you think there's okay, what you've said is, in a way, is that, okay, let the kids figure out what they want to do. You know, maybe that will sort of add on to their curiosity quotient. But specifically, I mean, is there any way, or anybody who's tried, I'll open that to the panel after you've answered,
Yes.
that there was an opportunity for us to sort of use this to sort of rekindle curiosity amongst school students. That's one school of thought.
Yeah, my personal experience, Viraj, has been, am I muted? No, okay. So you can hear me. So my personal experience, Viraj, is it's a rather staid and a monotonous kind of an environment where we are, you know, I don't know whether the other teachers would kind of endorse what I'm saying, but most of the times we are kind of, you know, coaxing the children to switch on the cameras and switch on the audio. We want to interact with them. So curiosity, I don't think, I mean, it's pretty challenging. I think in a real environment in the class, I think it becomes much easier. At the same time, I think one advantage of technology is that it gives you a certain amount of anonymity. And I think some of the children actually have been able to kind of leverage that anonymity to kind of, you know, interact with the teachers, which they normally never did in the real class. So that is one thing. But to sort of, you know, to cater to curiosity, or be able to kind of, you know, as you said, I mean, kindle curiosity is a pretty challenging task when it comes to online teaching learning process. Yes.
Fair. All right. So that's a good input. So let me now go to next door to Ajmer, to Jaipur, to Cherry Ma'am. Cherry Ma'am, your take on the challenges and the opportunities that you know, we've been facing as educationists during this ever since March.
So once again, good evening, everyone. And I really agree. It's been a huge challenge when it began in the month of March or April. But I think at the same time, we were able to kindle a lot of curiosity amongst ourselves and children in terms of how to teach online. So from there, when we began asking this question to ourselves, how to teach online, and then how to teach online also for different subjects, like languages is one part, mathematics is another thing, science is a completely different take. And then we also invited input from parents and children. So children were very enthusiastic and very curious to be, I don't know, they Googled, they searched the net and everything, and then they came up with brilliant ideas. So I think there were ways in which we also learned curiosity can be kindled. And I would really feel personally that it has come as a real opportunity. If I am teaching language, I am actually being able to do a lot of things which I was not able to do in my real classroom. So all those audios and videos and the live interaction and the children sending their things and the animated things that I can now show them. So it's actually been an opportunity in some ways. Of course, a sad thing. Of course, we're all struggling with every other aspect of it. But yes, it has been an opportunity. And in terms of arousing curiosity, what I felt was that if you just infuse a bit of the topic or the main subject or the main teaching point and then leave it to them to come up with that, maybe something from the experiential learning that we've been doing, something from the project-based learning. Children have been curious, and it's actually 24/7, and we have to tell them that no, please tell whatever you want to tell during school hours. Do not keep on messaging all the time. Do not send it on my WhatsApp after 5 p.m. or whatever. So they are even more curious, and they keep on sending, ma'am, you must see this site. This has wonderful ideas. Ma'am, you must go to this site and pick from there. So it's actually, they are curious because we are now learning and we are now teaching, if I may say, from their end. What they are actually enjoying, what they were always keen on, we are now taking up that. And we are asking them every day. So they're very curious, very interesting, and very interested and very excited to tell the teacher how to teach and what to do. So you see, now we are at the same plinth. We're not upper hand or something. We like peers or partners in crime. So there they're more curious. They are finding out about a lesson. They tell me, ma'am, tomorrow we have to start this. Should I search for things? Okay. And then they will send you in the evening, and my phone is all full of things, and then I have to pick and choose, and it goes on very well. So I must say it has been a very positive opportunity in so many ways. And children, yes, it has been difficult. From March, what I see, to April, and what I see in July, August, September, we've traveled a long distance. And I must say it's been a very uphill task, but at the same time, really enjoyable. And it's great.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so no, most welcome, ma'am. Thank you for that input. Let me go to Maya, ma'am. Maya, ma'am, good evening and welcome to the roundtable.
Good evening, sir, and good evening, everyone. I'm so sorry for the technical problem. I tried to log in since 5:40. I'm so sorry for that.
No, but I think this is quite symbolic to what happens in the class also. You know, like the students and the teachers we do face these kind of technical glitches, and you know, and so that's all right. I think we're now very accustomed to all this. Yeah, Maya, ma'am, your take. I mean, you know, what we were discussing when you joined in was that are there any opportunities, and how we are trying to sort of cope up with this. This was something which took us by surprise. If I can use the term loosely, we were quite unprepared, having no experience in online teaching. I think even now it is still evolving, and I think, like Sanjay mentioned, the challenges. I think we are still trying to surmount those challenges. We still have not been able to get a complete grip of the situation. I think for one thing that teachers and Sanjay also pointed that out was that you know, you spend a lot of time getting everybody to put their videos on, you know, and somebody was, you know, when I was preparing for this roundtable, one of the teachers who she's not here on the panel, but she shared an experience that suddenly by mistake, you know, the audio, you know, the kid, his mic got unmuted, and suddenly the entire class could hear very heavy duty music, which means the kid was present, but what the kid was doing was listening to music, and it was very embarrassing. The teacher then had to sort of terminate the class and you know, give a lecture or whatever, but then the damage was done, because it also told a whole lot of other kids,
Yes.
This is what you can do, that you can mute your mic and listen to music and do whatever you want to do. So I think that these will be the kind of challenges. So your take, ma'am.
Yes, I'll just agree with what Cherry ma'am just now said. Yes, when the entire educational realm worldwide, I'm talking about, was thrown into disarray because of the pandemic. Yes, we were not prepared. Initially, we were not prepared. We thought it would be a humongous task, basically, to carry forward with the teaching learning processes. But yes, as an educator, I would say that I see it as an opportunity to learn, at the same time to hone our skills further. Because if we talk about the present day scenario, even the annual theme that CBSE has chosen this year is competency based learning, wherein we can involve our students as collaborators, because if we give them tasks like flipped classroom, or involve them in various activities like project based learning, or even assign tasks like peer mentoring and peer tutoring, we find that a lot of curiosity is definitely generated in the children. At the same time, they are very engaged. When they are engaged, they are more interested. When they're interested, they are motivated to learn. They collaborate well with each other, and that definitely ensures that we maximize the learning. And learning takes place best when children are motivated. So I would say that as educators, it is imperative for us to also keep abreast with the latest technology that is happening, that is present around us. So basically, yes, it was thought that curiosity generation would be a difficult task, but I would say that for us, especially because we were quite prepared. Even before the lockdown was announced, we had started planning. Especially, we started using Skype and Zoom as trial classes for the senior children. And when the lockdown was announced, we were very much prepared, because we actually resorted to a wider platform like Microsoft Teams. Yes, the implementation was definitely a problem initially, because we had to go for a lot of orientation programs for both the teachers, a lot of hands-on activities for them to empower them so that they are confident. We had a lot of orientation sessions with the children as well. So by the first week of April, we were quite efficient in handling all the technical problems that we were expecting to have. Thankfully, it went off really well for us. As a progressive school, I would say it was very important for us also to ensure that none of the academic loss happens to the children. And since India is one of the countries which is expected to be the second largest e-learning platform and market across the world, I think that it was a wonderful opportunity for us to explore the new areas that we could not thought of before. So yes, I would not say that a teacher can completely replace the digital classroom, but yes, a blend of technology, especially the traditional technology with the digital classroom, is a wonderful thing. And in even the NEP, it also articulates the same thing, that we should integrate technology with the classroom teaching. So I think we are going in the right direction.
Yeah, wonderful. I think it's a good input, ma'am. And I think, yes, going forward, there is this thrust of the government and the powers to be, and the NEP also talks about the hybrid model where there's a lot of leaning on digital. But, let's go back, let me take you back to what happened initially, and this is the basis, some study that we had done. In the initial phase, it was very difficult for teachers to teach from home. For example, small things, they did not know that they have to tell other people in the household that they're on air and they're live with the students. So you had interface and interference, and you had, the rest of the people in the house talking over the lesson being downloaded. Teachers did not know how to reduce noise. Even the students do not know how to reduce noise. You still have complaints of a lot of hum, where it catches on, the mic catches on the air conditioning or the cooling system noise. Then lighting, teachers did not know, nobody educated the teachers as to that lighting is a very integral part of delivering a lesson, because the impact is because of is how you appear on the screen. And so people were not conscious of lighting. Either they were too brightly lit, there was burnout, or they were very dimly lit, and teachers lost interest. So that was another thing. And I know of cases where these students are telling teachers that, look, take a selfie. If your selfie without the flashlight comes, all right, that means you're okay. Small nuggets like this. And then also things like turning off your notification. So you had teachers whose notification will pop up. Of course, you have platforms like or conferencing tools like Zoom, which automatically turns off your notifications. But we all faced those challenges in the beginning. And also to record your synchronous sessions and then replay. I mean, it was a very simple trick. All we had to do is watch ourselves, record our sessions, and replay and then figure out where are we going wrong. Even this input was not available. So we've all struggled. We've all come out. I mean, today we are talking of a lot of positives because I think we've all gone through that learning curve. But in that learning curve, in that 2-3 months, a lot of equity of the teacher has been lost. Suddenly, the student feels that, look, my teacher may be very good in maths, but she doesn't know nothing about technology. And that's not a great feeling. That's not something that you will want students to carry. So there have been these kind of challenges. We've gone through this, so it's not been an easy journey. But like you said, and like Cherry Ma'am said, that we've sort of evolved, we've learned, but it need not have to go through this route. Yeah, Sunita Ma'am, your inputs. Sunita Ma'am.
Very good morning, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Yeah. I will talk about my experience, sir. The school where I joined in the month of December, and I joined as a coordinator there. And it was a big challenge when in the month of March, all of a sudden this pandemic happened and we had to turn to this online mode because our school was mostly on paper and pen. So bringing those teachers who are used to working on paper and pen to technology, I had to take sessions to teach them how to make PPTs, how to use email, how to, so it was a Herculean task for me. But yes, I could manage it well. And see, earlier the schools, now also most of the schools have few rooms designated as audiovisual rooms. But now everything is happening on audiovisual. And like CBSE books, most of the YouTube links are mentioned, but hardly the teachers use them. But now everybody is using. So I think it came as a blessing. This pandemic, this lockdown came as a blessing in disguise. So all the things which we were not using practically, we were mostly on that traditional classroom teaching, which was mostly teacher-centric. All of a sudden, everything became student-centric. And we started using all technical things. So I think it was like, it worked very positively, worked very well. This virtual background, you can see I learned from my students only. Yes, there are naughty ones who just join without computer audio. So you keep calling out names, you keep asking questions, they will not reply. Then we figured out that is because they joined without this computer audio. So we had to ask their parents to check that. So it was kind of collaborative effort between the parents, teachers, and yes, I'm happy with this technology thing, the way it has shaped up. But yes, teamwork
but
and all.
Ma'am, let me just hold you here. I think I must let the other panelists know that Sunita Ma'am is the first and the only person to have got promoted to become a principal during the pandemic.
Yes.
So it has worked in her favor very well. So when she's involved, I think she's benefited out of this.
Congratulations, Sunita Ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Yes. So maybe, like I said, blessing in disguise. So the way the things were handled and the parents were happy. So got positive feedback from the parents, the students, and teachers were also finally happy that yes, we have learned so many new things which we are not doing. So that's my take on all this. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Dolly Ma'am, what is your take? You heard 4 different opinions. What is your take? Dolly Ma'am, if you can tell us what is your take. You'll have to unmute. Yeah.
Yeah. I think listening to everybody, it seems to have been a real learning experience for the teachers as well. I mean, apart from the students when they had time. And I do agree with Mr. Naveen that we cannot replace online teaching.
Sanjay, he's actually Sanjay. He's joined as Naveen. That's the.
Yeah, I would agree with him that you can't completely, it is not the same. It is actually not the same. And, but nobody has even, we feel that the students are learning, they're enjoying and everything seems to be working out fine. We seem to have forgotten a very important section, which has probably not benefited from online teaching. And that is the EVS section. And most children in the government school are not only equipped with the laptops or the smartphones to be able to even sign in on an online class. And what worries me is how are you now going to test them at the end? There is going to be a lag in learning. I mean, though I've been sitting on some of my daughter's online classes, which is taken at Western Valley, and I know that many students have benefited, and she's been telling me that some children who never used to earlier participate seem to have bloomed and blossomed as on the online classes because they're not being judged by their peers and nobody's sort of making faces if their answers are wrong or something comes out mispronounced. And they seem to be made a lot of progress individually. But what is happening to the classes and sections of society who are not being benefited? How are you going to bridge the divide before you test, before you examine? Even in a class 12, you're going to have, if you're going to have the board exam at the same time, what is going to happen to that section? It worries me sometimes that nobody's really taking this very seriously.
No,
CBSE,
that's a very valid point, I think, and I think that it actually is the divide between haves and have-nots, is now so pronounced, because you see there are basic requirements of doing a class on a digital format. One, the kid should have a secluded place in the house. He or she should have a small place where he or she is not disturbed. They should have a good, decent speed broadband connection, and they should have a free device available, a good smartphone or a laptop available for them to be attending these classes. Now, the moment you look at these three essentials, I think you are ignoring a large section of society. Fortunately, I think none of us are exposed to to that strata of our society, but that's a large chunk. So what it is doing also is that it's further creating a big divide between the haves and have-nots, and you're depriving the have-nots of a mechanism to sort of upgrade themselves, because now suddenly, I mean, the only way they could upgrade and compete was education, and now they're being deprived of the basic education. So that's another debate altogether. I don't know what Sanjay has to say to this. I mean, it's more a sociological issue than anything else, but it's an issue, all right. And I'm sure some of the schools, I think Sunita ma'am would have a school, or Maya ma'am would have certain economically weaker section classes, and Cherry ma'am would have it,
So
I don't know what happened to them.
Are we doing something to bring them up to a par? And how
Yes,
is that?
very good point. Yeah. Dolly ma'am, that's a very good point. Sanjay, your take on this?
Giraj, I was having this discussion in the morning during my online class. I told the boys that I'll be having a webinar this evening, and let's discuss about online learning. And one of the boys, brought up a very pertinent point. He said, "Sir, we are having online classes, but are we having online school?" Now, I mean, what you dish out in the class is just, one facet of what education is all about. What Dolly ma'am has told, I'm sure, I mean, these children, a lot of deprived children, a lot of children would not have access to technology, but I'm not very sure whether the parents also don't own a basic, touchscreen phone. I think sometimes, I mean, there might be a little bit of reluctance, on part of the parents to actually sort of share the devices with the children. I know there are challenges, there might be certain limitations, but I'm sure, I think asynchronous learning is something that we'll have to sort of work on. And then we'll have to work out a delivery mechanism by which we ensure that the content is kind of delivered. But as I mentioned at the beginning, Giraj, I think even if they take a year off, I think, but I think it might just impact the children who don't have access to technology a little more than other children. What technology does is, I think the biggest impediment of technology would be that, whenever we're talking solutions and problems, most of the solutions would not be linear. Technology would actually sort of cater to certain solutions that are linear. But if the solution to a problem is peripheral, then of course you need to get the children back to classes. That's one thing. The assessment is another big challenge.
Absolutely, Dolly ma'am touched that, and you mentioned that initially, Sanjay, I think.
Yes, assessment is a big challenge. So there are a lot of, because my daughter, whenever she takes the exam, I think she's absolutely relaxed. I mean, she's got no stress for the examination. Why? Because she knows, I mean, just 5 minutes before the exam is about to end, one of the brighter girls of the class would probably, work out the entire question paper and would share that on WhatsApp. You have certain platforms where, I mean, the moment the child leaves the screen, you'll get to know. But then you can't sort of contain that. I mean, it's absolutely fine. The only thing is we need to kind of redesign the way we administer our assessment. That's the only solution to this problem. So we start with an examination without actually teaching or delivering the content. We start with an examination and go in for something that's called as reverse assessment. So we start with the question, we start with the examination. If a child says, I mean, I have no idea, I haven't really, sort of understood this concept, or we haven't discussed this concept, you just tell him to find out a little more about it. Allow him access to the internet, he can talk to his teachers, parents, I mean, he can access his textbooks, whatever. I mean, all the resources are available to him. And then he comes out with the response to that particular question in the examination. And then you have a kind of an interview with him. And that is where the acid test is. And I think that kind of an assessment is bound to be more effective than the normal state kind of an assessment that we do for learning, not that we do off learning and not for learning. So, the entire process would be extremely meaningful, and it'll sort of be able to kind of bring out those behavioral changes that we so desperately aspire to. So that's another thing. I don't know about this, there might be a section of society who might not have access to technology, but I'm sure, I think, the parents do have access to phones. I mean, almost all of us do have access to phones. There might be certain children who just don't have any access. And for them, I think we need to work out a kind of an asynchronous kind of thing. We need to develop certain content, and then we have to work out how to actually sort of enable them to kind of access that content. I don't know. I think we can kind of brainstorm on this and try to find out the solution to this.
Right. So Sanjay, from what you said and what Dolly ma'am said, so assessment is one big challenge, and there are multiple ways. I think one thing it also reflects is that what has happened is that all of us largely have actually, we have tried to replicate our, if I can call it a brick and mortar model of education. We've tried to replicate that model as it is with certain tweaks onto the digital platform. Whereas this is a completely unknown animal. It's a completely new thing. It has a lot of opportunities which we can't sort of access. We've no idea. And we're just trying to sort of replicate. And it's now that we are realizing that it has so much more potential. Plus it has a lot of difficulties. Like you mentioned that, somebody gives all the answers on the WhatsApp and, the kid can actually sort of score whatever. That, and the other thing is, the other challenge is the focus. When you are in front of a group of students, they are bound to focus on what you're saying, right? You can actually command focus, which at a certain age, I think is necessary, because that's what perhaps discipline is all about. In an online platform, where is the focus and how do you bring in that focus is something that, at least, I didn't get any input from whatever little research that we did. Let me address this to Navreet ma'am. She's there. Navreet ma'am, if you can hear me, your inputs, challenges and opportunities of teaching online, and all that we've discussed. We've discussed assessment. We've discussed society, how some kids are not equipped. We've also looked at how we are trying to replicate our brick and mortar model to the online platform, which may not be the best way. We've also looked at some success stories of how, like Sunita ma'am mentioned, that how we are able to evolve, or what Maya ma'am said, that initially there were difficulties, but we've been able to sort of cope up and come out, and now we are well equipped. Your take, ma'am. Navreet ma'am, if you can hear me, you can unmute and respond.
Good evening, everyone. I hope I am audible.
Yes, you're audible, ma'am.
All
Good
right.
evening to you.
Everyone has spoken so beautifully and mentioned all the challenges and possible, how we can overcome these challenges. I find myself completely endorsing everyone's words, whether it is Mr. Sanjay or Ms. Terry or Ms. Sunita. I think everyone has said that was that needed saying. So I endorse everyone's words and solutions coming down to common. I'm now going to speak as a layman, somebody who is meeting the challenges on a day-to-day basis. When we started out, there was a whole lot of enthusiasm, curiosity, and the spark was there, and the desire to overcome this challenge and make our classes interesting. And we really did a fantastic job. It was like pushing somebody into a 10-meter deep pool and, letting them sink or swim. So when you are faced with this life or death scenario, you obviously do your utmost to survive. The will to survive is so strong. And I think we survived this ordeal with that kind of will. However, I find few months down the line, there is this decline in enthusiasm. There is this, from curiosity to boredom. The journey, you can make it out from the children's attitude, their behavior. Yes, they prepared presentations, they came with a lot of material, they took up the assessments with a lot of enthusiasm. There were those anonymous, using anonymity of the camera. The children were able to speak out their mind aloud. The good ones kind of went into a comatose state because they were not, this really did not put the spotlight on them. The dark horses came onto the screen, all of that happened. But somewhere, I find I'm not going to include the pre-primary or the primary or even the middle school. The spark is, the light is burning bright in them. The spark is like, they really have the spark for this online. It is the senior most classes where I find a kind of a declining interest, Their first question when I opened it, when I met them after a few days is, ma'am, are we done with the syllabus? I said, yes, we completed the syllabus. Because online teaching is a faster mode. The challenges, you come, you have your PPT ready, you have your questions ready, you have your main highlights ready, you discuss, okay, maximum 3 periods in 1 week, you are done with the chapter, you're over. So you finished with your syllabus. Now children are looking at maybe preparing for other exams. So I really agree with Mr. Sanjay that we should have declared, the government should have declared this a gap year, given children a time, given us teachers a time to recover and recuperate from this whole exciting novelty that we find ourselves living in right now, the so-called new normal. Personally, it has been a very learning curve for me, because as one of my students told me, he says, ma'am, on Teachers' Day, he says, ma'am, you always, you have this reputation of being a very strict teacher, because I only teach them in the 12th. They come to me at that level and they say, we were so scared of you to even come face to face in the corridor. But now that we see you, we realize you're quite likable. So I got a chance to showcase my better side. This is what this happened. But personally, what I do is I spend almost 10 minutes of my 40-minute period talking to children, marking their attendance, trying to connect to each and every child as they enter, so that they don't feel that, nobody's interested whether I join the class. And I agree with Mr. Sanjay. It is like you are beseeching them. You feel like a beggar at a traffic light, please switch on your cameras. You are like, you chase after them. But I talk to them, the ones who join early. You have to, otherwise what is happening is we are teaching in isolation. The children are learning in isolation. So what we need to do is, yes, we are trying to replicate that brick and mortar thing online, which is not happening. That is not happening. I too find a decline in my own interest. I also feel that, the sense of frustration that, why isn't this child responding? Why is it that I'm calling out to this child and he's not responding? So now there are a whole lot of teachers who are now looking forward to going back to the real classroom. And yes, looking at blended, because there is no denying that this blended learning model that we are looking at or talking about is going to be a success, because you see the kind of resources we've been able to tap into, the kind of material we have been able to share with the students, courtesy coming online, which wouldn't have happened. We would have just gone, taught them in a lecture method and come out. But now it has become more interactive to a limited degree, because they are submitting their things. So reverse assessment, I like that idea. In fact, I even tried it. And out of a class of 156, 3 students responded. 3 responses came, and that's it. And the children were, and the feedback, when I asked them, why didn't you respond? He says, ma'am, we are more happier. You see, because let's not forget, they've been groomed for almost 13 years to that concept that the teacher will come, read the chapter, explain it to them. So maybe these are it's too early in the day to really give reverse assessment to them. But yes, I think back to the classroom, regular classroom with smart boards, or even maybe now that we are more tech savvy, we will be able to use it. Other than that, I think the rest, everybody has spoken their mind. Thank you so much.
Fine. I think now I'll want reaction to when we were doing our research for this roundtable. There's one very peculiar statement that came our way, and this is from not just one. This is from a set of teachers. From different schools. And I quote one of the teachers there, and she says that I like to stand when I teach. I find it gives me more energy. It helps me think better, and I am deprived of this online. How do you respond to this? Let me go back. Let me go back to Cherry ma'am. Cherry ma'am, how do you respond to this feedback? Have you also had teachers or colleagues who come back and complain that, look, I feel completely that as if my energy has been taken away, as if that privilege of standing up, talking to kids, that joy of addressing them in close proximity, that's all gone.
Yeah, of course. if we all think of the scenario, it has been like that. No, we were all sages in our own classroom and on the stage. Now we deprived of that, and there are mixed reactions that we have from our colleagues regarding standing and then addressing children and all that. Here also we are addressing, but I only address a blank screen for that matter. I can see names on the side panel, and if I call out, they will perhaps speak, perhaps not speak, or maybe you have to ask for them twice, thrice, and suddenly some other student will message and tell that ma'am is calling you, jawab do. So that of course does happen. It happens all the time. And teachers are feeling very tired now that we have actually reached that burnout stage, doing the same thing as ma'am has also said, Navneet ma'am. It's repetitive, it's mechanical, and I always remember the lesson that we once taught the children. The fun they had. It was a comparison. It was by Isaac Asimov, and the story is about the robot teachers and the futuristic school where children suddenly read about their grandparents who went to an actual school, and thinking of the building and the others coming in was so fascinating for that bunch of students. So now it's like reversal. So we've come almost on the other side. Now we're living that kind of life, being this side of the screen. And it's been very difficult. And yes, energy levels at times are going down, but there are other things also that we are doing as a part of our school community to keep the teachers' energy up. We doing a few virtual sessions for the teachers as well, not any kind of preaching or any kind of counseling or whatever, but yes, fun sessions where whatever is the stress is went out. And also the earlier point, if I may just put in about the devices, we do have a certain group of students from the economically backward sections, and for them, we've tried and follow a two-way approach. One, we have first found out whether they do not have any device, which means even the parents do not have, or whether the device is only available maybe on a given, maybe during a given period of time, maybe morning and evening when the father is back home. So for that kind of scenario where it is a father's phone and it will only be there in the evening and morning, we are trying and sending them everything through email. So they've got an email ID and we've tried and sent, and then the teacher also interacts through that. But the ones who do not have absolutely any device, we've tried and through the help of our ex-students, we've got them devices. So some of the teachers, some of the parents who had extra devices at home, we've all given them to those children to be making use of for the online classroom. So that also is being tackled. So we're trying and doing everything possible to keep energy, to sustain, to kind of use this time to the best of children's interest, if we should say. And yes, sometimes it is bad, but then yes, if you, I am sure we've all come across Frost saying, "The woods are lovely, dark and deep." But yes, we all have promises to keep and miles to go. So we are actually going. So that is what I'd like to say. Yeah.
Fair. I go to Sanjeev, who's been quiet for quite some time. Well, there's a thumbs up coming from Sunita ma'am to what Cherry ma'am said. Sanjeev, you've been quiet. You've been, looking at education slightly differently. You are an outside insider running the Smart-Vocab Challenger. What is your take? You've been also interacting with teachers. You have a lot of feedback with you. What has been your take?
Yeah, I think, most of the panelists have already covered the most important points and the way forward. We must remember that this was totally unanticipated. What happened in April, the lockdown, and subsequently, neither the teachers nor the students were prepared to handle it. But I think everybody got together and did a fairly good job. And there were learnings. And I think these learnings will have to be carried forward. Teaching probably will never be the same again. We'll never go back to what 2019 was or the early 20 was. I think the digital experience has given us some important learnings, and those will certainly be incorporated into the teaching methods, the methodology in the future. Having said that, I think there is absolutely no substitute for a face-to-face interaction, collaborative working environment. After all, human beings are social animals, and they need to sort of meet, see, touch, feel each other, interact, have a lot of off-cuff interaction, it is, I mean, digital tends to be much more formal and limited, although there would be SMSs going from here and there and WhatsApp going from here and there and then. But there is absolutely no substitute. So I think in the future, we will also need to have a mix of digital as well as non-digital, like Sanjay said, synchronous, non-synchronous. And also it needs to be very inclusive. Dolly ma'am mentioned about the access the EWS section has to technology. Many years ago, there was a project to produce tablets in the range of about 2,000 to 3,000 rupees and make them available to every student. Somewhere, I think that initiative down the line, but I think we will see initiatives like those come out, and technology would be very accessible. Fortunately, in India, mobile coverage rates are amongst the cheapest of the world. So, I mean, it's not a very, very big task given some planning thought process. I think technology can be made accessible. I think really, I think what is commendable is that the trend or the attempt to bring technology into on digital practices, if I may, into teaching has been there for the many years. I mean, we talked of smart classrooms and those kind of things. But it's now that, it has been adopted and it's adopted very well by the team. I think I would congratulate all the teachers here for being able to adapt, being able to change, and taking the students along with them. I think it's been a tremendous way forward. And I think going forward also, we'll see a lot of technology in our classrooms here.
All right. I think there's one, I'll bring in one more element to it. And that is that there is this huge danger now of the edtech companies, as we call them, the education technology companies offering courses. And if you look at the market from commercial terms, it is supposed to be, there's a projection and a conservative projection that by 2022, the edtech market would be something like $1.7 billion in India. Now, what is happening therefore is, and the danger that I think we should all be cautious about is that suddenly we will be compared, conventional brick and mortar teachers and their style of education will be compared to the education that's been given by people who are familiar with the technology, who have devised technology and are working on cutting edge of technology and offering the same content, but in a fabulous way. And there would be direct parallels then that, look, what did my teacher tell me? And look at, say, this edtech company. And there, and 1.7 billion is a huge, by 2022 is a huge number. And if that is what the projection is, especially teachers teaching 10th, 11th, 12th would actually have this danger of being compared, and unfavorably so, with people who are sitting on top of that cutting edge technology domain. Sanjay, your take on this. What do you think is going to happen?
This is, I think, Giraj, pretty inevitable. I mean, this is something that's going to happen. But I think these, edtech companies, as you just mentioned, would also rely on teachers. Because my experience here at Mayo College for the past so many years has been that we have, all kinds of, I'd say, content providers, or, sometimes in derogatory terms, we also, refer to them as, vendors. And there's so many of them who approach us, and not one of them has ever been able to meet the expectations that we have from them. So while they might have access to technology, I think they also need to fall back on teachers who can really create that content. So I don't know. I think in that scenario, the teachers would come in handy. I've been struggling with this, digital content provider in my school for the past so many years, because I want certain level of content that's meant for the advanced levels. What they're doing is, they're just giving us a kind of a blanket course, a kind of a course that, probably caters to the other CBC schools around. It's a kind of a generic course. So I want certain specifics, and I've been asking for these specifics over the past so many years, and they failed to deliver. So while they might not work for a particular subject, they might, like, for the matter, online classes, they lend themselves better. The online interactions lend themselves better for certain subjects. For other subjects, that might not be as effective. So the school would have an opinion that, if it's not working for one subject, I think that's fine. It's still working for 7, 8, 10 different subjects. But I think we need to challenge the content that these, I think still at the core, at the crux of it all is the content that these, not the delivery mechanism, as I said, I think that might be, that might seem to be quite impressive to the children or to the learners, and probably help them assimilate as well. But I think, at the end of the day, what is important is that it all boils down to content. And I think there'll be, still a need of some good teachers. I think with the pandemic, what's happened is that those people, who are not good teachers or who are not effective teachers would be relegated to the background. And I think there is, an importance of good teachers today more than ever before. And with the changing times, I think with technology coming in, you cannot replace the teacher. So the teacher would have to be there. I mean, to, sort of leverage technology to deliver content, but essentially at the core of it all, the teacher has to be there, and a good teacher has to be there.
Wonderful. So Sanjay, what you're saying therefore is that it is the content and the delivery of the content by an experienced good teacher is paramount. You may have fancy technology to sort of polish your delivery mechanism and polish your whatever, the peripherals, but the actual rich content and the teaching methodology which a good teacher sort of experiments, evolves, inherits, or whatever, that cannot be replaced by such platforms. So that's a fantastic thing. That's very, very reassuring. Sunita ma'am, your take on this?
Sir, I just want to add one thing. Yes, teachers cannot be replaced. I can give you just example, like now CBSE has allowed, the government has allowed, like we can call the students for doubt classes. Initially, we began with 7 students of class 10. We have 45 students. Now, 43 students are coming to school. So you can see the difference. And we talk to them, we ask them which mode you find better. So they are all for this traditional classroom teaching that, ma'am, we are liking it better, we are understanding better, and we like to come to school. So you can see, we had to create 3 sections of 15 students each, 3 timetables. Otherwise, only 1 class was there. So that ways we had to, during these days, we had to be very flexible. Those, like ma'am said, people are not having devices. So, but yes, in the beginning, they did not have devices, but by July, August, everybody, though the parents were not paying fees, but they had arranged devices for their children. So all of them were attending online classes. And some parents, like for the pre-primary ones, they want like to sit with their children during the online classes. So we had provided them classes twice, one in the morning and evening also. So we had, been very flexible with them to see that smooth running. So that is how it is. But yes, traditional classroom teaching, I don't think it is going to be replaced. And yes, blended approach will be the new normal or the order of the day, you can say.
Yeah, and also I think that's a valid point. And also, Sanjay had mentioned that initially also that joy of learning together. I mean, education is not just about content and about subject matter. It is also about of peer group interaction, of discussion, of coming out with a contra point of view, which I think in a packed class of 40 on a digital platform, it is impossible to sort of take those things down. And if those questions come to you on chat, they're not half as good as when somebody raises a hand in the class and addresses that question to you and if you can answer. So yeah, that's also is there. So content, I think that's very, very reassuring. Sanjeev, I think the other day we were discussing about how the PDF class, the PDF material, the lessons coming on PDF from some publishers, how that is substandard in terms of, it's a tick mark kind of a thing. That's the impression. And Sanjay mentioned about the quality of the vendor. And I think we are also aware of this, that, the vendor quality and even some reputed publishers who come out with, claim to come out with some very nice PDF course material. It falls short of the teacher's expectation. Forget, that they would go back and teach on them. So what's your take on that?
No, absolutely. I think Sanjay is bang on when he says that there is a need to upgrade the content. The technology is available. The technology is also evolving. I mean, there are many things which have, improved over the last years, months. So content is king, and a lot has to be done in content. And I have seen teachers who have smart, classrooms and smart boards, but they still use the content that they have sort of assimilated over the years. Yeah. I think there is no substitute for the experience that a teacher brings in. There is no substitute for the customization that brings in. There is no substitution for the motivation that, the teacher can bring to the classroom. So content has to be much better. But like you said, a lot of money is being spent there. A lot of investment is being there because Typically, like IT companies, they see content as a scalable thing, that once you make a content, then you can just scale up, scale up, scale up. So I think these are interesting times, but I agree with what the panelists have said, that the relevance of the teachers, the importance of the teachers will remain. It may change the way things happen, but it will certainly remain, despite whatever edtech is available.
No, and I think also the point that that was made in the panel here, Navneet also touched upon it, is the fatigue factor that's setting in, and fatigue setting in at both the places. Fatigue setting in as far as the students are concerned, and fatigue setting in from a teacher perspective also. They also want to sort of get out of this, sitting in a room. Navneet mentioned about staring at a blank screen. Just having a drop-down box which has names of all the participants or all the students, that is also taxing. It's at times boring, because I think the teacher also has to motivate oneself, and it is only that interaction and the response that you see, the charm of seeing that those eureka movements when kids understand what you're trying to tell them. That charm of feeling good about that I've been able to sort of upgrade or upskill those students. I think that's missing in online. So I think everybody is getting fatigued. So there is fantastic hope for brick and mortar. Ridhima, you want to say something?
Yeah. So I think it's been very interesting hearing everything. I just want to say that the lack of curiosity or the disinterest could be attributed to the fact that there is a very big, lack of personal touch. The lesson in school is just not what the teacher downloads to us. Obviously, that's a majority, but it's the whole experience, being with the peers and everything else we do. So even if it's a little leg pulling or mischief that we do in school, that is a major lesson for everybody in life. Even the teacher would scold us and discipline us, and that will control our barbaric side for life. That will teach us how to maintain decorum in a professional setting for life. So on the personal front, I heard a very interesting idea from a teacher. So she said that I have a certain number of lectures that I give, but once a week I put in this time wherein we'll just chit chat. They're going to tell me their day and how it's life going and everything. And in the bargain, I get the other 5 lectures which go very well. So which I thought was an interesting take to keep them connected, yet keep the learning going on in full swing.
Fantastic. So that's a good practice that maybe I think can be used, but I am sure some teachers would stand up and say, look, that is not what I'm supposed to be doing. It has come down to this now, that I have to actually play act for one class so that I can conduct 5 classes properly. I think so. There'll be a divided house there. Maya ma'am, last word from you before we close.
Yes, sir. Rightly said by most of the panelists here, online instruction can turn students into passive observers rather than active participants unless it is thoughtfully utilized. So for learning to be effective, it's very important that students are engaged, not only in quality, breadth and depth of their learning. Collaboration, again, is the most important key, I would say. No matter how enriching the online classes may be, students can get frustrated due to lack of human contact, especially when they are confined to the 4 walls of the home. It's imperative that both the teachers and students will get fatigue. And it can be extremely monotonous and can erode the desire to learn also of the children. So it's very important to ensure that we keep a blend of technology with the traditional mode that we used to have, to bring in more innovation in the way we are transacting the classes. Only that can redefine the scope of learning for the students as of now. And that is the need of the hour as well.
Wonderful. Navneet ma'am, last word from you, please.
I just want to put across the students' point of view over here.
Yeah.
I've been in talks with my children because, as you said, that trying to establish a personal connect with them, letting them know that, yes, I'm waiting for them. And maybe that's why, as I said, my personality changed. I started smiling a lot more. So the children come out with this, that, ma'am, we are sitting in front of our laptops and computers and phones till almost 8:30 in the 8:30 p.m. at night. They are attending one class after the other. Somehow the other, the message hasn't percolated down to the parents that their children need a break, that, starting the school is doing its job, we giving them 3 hours classes. After that, the children go for their coaching classes. Besides the coaching classes, they have some other extra classes which their parents have asked them to join. just so that they are preparing, because everybody is taking this as a free time in which to equip themselves better for some entrance exam. So I think the parents need to understand first and foremost that the children also need, it's not that they are fatigued by the classroom class. We hardly teach them for more than 30 minutes. In that also you break down the class, maybe the actual teaching time comes down to 15 to 20 minutes. Rest is just spent in, interaction, asking, prompting someone, forcing them to participate in what is happening, listening to their excuses, why their camera is not on or why their audio is not on. So the parents need to be on board with us, and this is somewhere I feel that the parents agree, but they say that society demands that the children get admission into a particular college or university, so they have those pressures on them. So somewhere there is lack of clarity put across by maybe the government, maybe CBSE, maybe all the stakeholders in children's education. We are kind of just floundering. We are forcing, we are talking good, we are talking good sense. We need to do this, this is the right way to do. But on ground, we are still stuck to our traditional mindset, which is not ready to embrace the new innovative technology, or the something like, let's say, for example, reverse assessment. That's something that's come, So till we don't change as a society, this we can continue discussing how to make the children more interested. But as long as a child is sitting in front of a camera till 9 p.m., he loses interest. He or she is not interested. So we need to focus more, and we need to genuinely worry for their concern. But here we are all caught up in a rat race. The government, the CBSE, the different directorates, the schools themselves, in a bid to be seen as to be doing their optimum during the lockdown. I think we have put unnecessary pressure on the students, and that they are the major stakeholders. I think we need to really now listen to their voice. What is it that they want to do? So perhaps the next webinar you have is maybe give a chance to the students and not to the educators,
Right.
to justify your stand. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Sunita, ma'am, last word from you.
Sir, I would just say that this is a time we need to learn a lot and keep gathering ideas. And one fine day when the pandemic is over, let's all use those ideas, to make our teaching learning process more interesting, more fruitful, and more enjoyable for the students. Because ultimately they are the stakeholders, and they are the ones for whom everything we are doing. So they should be benefited. So that's all.
Wonderful. I'll come to Cherry ma'am. Cherry ma'am, final word from you before we close.
I think I really agree with Navneet ma'am. Children definitely are burdened because of their parents' fulfilled, unfulfilled, left out kind of ambitions in life. And it is actually a very tough call for them, because post 12 noon they have their tuition classes again online, and then art class also is necessary, and public speaking class is also essential, and then weekends you have drawing and painting and dancing also online. So for them, it's becoming a little more too taxing. And in case if we can't really think of a gap year for academics, at least for other activities, you could call off for some time, some months, and let them just be children. But very sadly, parents do not want their children at home at all. They want they should go somewhere, or they should be busy the entire day. They shouldn't be with them, because when there was just one very little example I'll give. We had this interaction with boys and girls over some kind of orientation. So one boy from somewhere south, he just said, "Ma'am, now nobody wants me at home. My parents want me out, and if I want to talk, they will shoo me off because they're tired listening to me post these whatever. Since I've come back from my boarding to my house, they don't want me at home now anymore." So parents are very tired. They just want to dump off somewhere. So schools, they want schools to reopen because they want to send their children and then do all that talking with your teacher. So we should let them live also. Yes, I agree. There should be a balance of all that. And the pandemic has been an opportunity, a challenge, and we are learning. And I think there are so many things that we've gathered, and we'll be using them wisely later.
All right.
So I think I'll close there. Thank you.
Yeah. Dolly ma'am, your final word from you before we go to Sanjay and Sanjeev to close.
I like the idea of having a Zoom meeting with students on board next time, Binay. See how they have benefited and what are their views. regarding the online class. I think that would be a real eye-opener for all of us.
Yeah, wonderful. I think we'll do that. I must share something with you. Sanjeev and I, and with Dolly ma'am, the three of us were trying to sort of put together, a book on best teaching practices. Because we interact with Sanjeev in particular and Dolly ma'am in particular. They interact with so many schools. We thought we'll pick up the best practices and put that together in a book form. But then the pandemic happened. So all those practices which apparently looked to be the best practices were completely null and void. And now I think Sanjeev is trying to sort of correlate data as to best practices online. And I think this panel discussion has actually taken you back. And I think, it's taken you back to saying that we must go back to the old brick and mortar best practices, maybe the hybrid version. So I think this input that we must get to students is a good idea. We must get their viewpoint and then come out and publish the best practices for schools sooner. Sanjeev, last words from you before we go to Sanjay.
Yeah, I think the best practices have changed a lot. And I think whatever happens for the better. I think finally we all going to become better, stronger professionals in personally out of it. And like I said, there is no substitute for human-to-human interaction and touch, and that is going to be an important part of any teaching process, any social process, any professional process that we have. So it's been very interesting times, and I think this panel discussion has also sort of reflects that diversity, the challenges, and the solution, and the attitude to find solutions to those problems that really pushes all of us forward. So that's all from me.
Sanjay, final words from you.
Yeah, thank you, Guraj. Giraj, quickly, India is a land of gurus and gurukuls. So it's a kind of a tectonic, shift from the earlier system that we are used to and moving to the online field. But I think one thing that we really need to do is, I think we need to cater to, the mental well-being of children. That's very important. And just keeping that in mind and giving a vent to their, kind of kinesthetic and tactile intelligence and spatial intelligence. And what we have done is, you've heard this term in IPL, biobubble. So that is the advantage with certain residential schools. We have a lot of space. So we can create a kind of biobubble where we are, till the government allows, of course, it won't happen. But if the government allows, post 30th November, what we are trying to do is we are trying to create a kind of biobubble. So there are Google Forms floating all around. The parents have given their consent, and I was quite surprised. An overwhelming number of parents would want the children to be here. In fact, when I was talking to some of the students this morning, they were telling me that they're far safer in a boarding school as compared to what they are at home. So that is quite a surprise. So we create a kind of a biobubble for them. And as it is, the school is taking care of the staff. We are getting our grocery, our vegetables, our medicines, everything at home. And the same thing would be recreated once the students get back. So that is, very important. Also, we are not planning to have the classes in the classrooms. And we have a lot of, open space.